aerospace and defense manufacturing,
machines and automation,
additive manufacturing,
smart manufacturing,
global manufacturing economy.
Welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals, powered by SME. From the design screen to the shop floor to final assembly, we drive the conversation about making manufacturing smarter by connecting people who are passionate about manufacturing. Visit us at sme.org.
Today's episode is sponsored by our guest.
Hello, and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. I'm Chris Mahart, Managing Editor at SME Media, and your host today. We're joined by Dr. Anant Sheshan, CEO of 5G Technologies USA. 5G specializes in Industry 4.0 technologies, AI, and smart manufacturing solutions with operations in Canada, US, Mexico, and India. Anant has been helping Fortune 100 organizations worldwide for the last 3 decades in the area of robotics, automation, and of late, AI and digital manufacturing. He is a member of the board of directors of Mesa International and was an invited member of a special task force set up by Industry Canada to explore the viability of applying advanced manufacturing technologies as a strategy to build competitive advantage in the Canadian manufacturing sector. Over the last 3 years, he has been an evangelist for the application of Industry 4.0 technologies using advanced AI technologies for small and medium industries. In particular, he's been involved in the ideation of 200 more successful implementations of Industry 4.0 solutions in the SME sector to date. Anant received his PhD from the University of Toronto in 1992 for developing common sense reasoning in robotic mechanisms. He has been an invited keynote speaker in many international forums on manufacturing automation and has won several awards for innovation and entrepreneurship. And wow, that is quite the resume and list of accomplishments. So thanks for joining us, Anant. We're lucky to have you with us. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris, and thank you very much for your kind words. I really look forward to this. A privilege to be part of your podcast. Thank you.
So we're going to be talking about smart manufacturing for small and medium manufacturers, which is a critical issue today. When, especially in the United States, a lot of times when people think about manufacturing, they might think of these massive manufacturers like Ford, GM, GE, and some of those real large manufacturers. But the truth is that, 98% of all manufacturers in the United States have less than 500 employees. So why is it important to apply digital transformation and smart manufacturing methods into these small and medium manufacturers?
Well, great question. And not only in the U.S., Chris, in most manufacturing economies of the world, including the U.S., mentioned Canada, Mexico, India, China, etc., the small and medium sector forms 95 to 98% of the manufacturing sector. Well, it is well known that if any country wants to increase the contribution of its manufacturing sector to its GDP, which most of the said countries want to do, the small and medium manufacturers have to become more productive and competitive, not only in their local markets, but globally. So smart manufacturing methods enable them to improve their productivity, reduce costs, and increase efficiencies. This is probably the first reason I would sort of say is the main reason for digital transformation being applied to sort of small and medium manufacturers. Secondly, let us not also forget that larger companies rely on small and medium manufacturers as their suppliers. So if the large organizations alone embrace smart manufacturing methods, let's say that we have a scenario where only the larger organization, which is the scenario today, by the way. If you look at the evolution of Industry 4/smart manufacturing over the last 10 years, the top 3 to 5% of the companies have embraced smart manufacturing, whereas the remaining 95% that we talked about have not really embarked on it. So let us assume that only the large organizations embrace it. Then what happens is that the suppliers to these large organizations are left behind. And that does not benefit the large organization in spite of their investments in smart manufacturing, because the real benefit of smart manufacturing is realized only when the entire ecosystem is transformed, not only when an island within the ecosystem, namely the large manufacturers, are transformed. So it is absolutely imperative that the smaller companies also join the fray. They have to be on board and they have to transform and should not be left behind if the entire manufacturing industry has to benefit and the economy of a country has to grow. And that's the reason why it is very important that we focus on the small and medium manufacturers and invite them to transform their methods to smart manufacturing methods.
It makes sense, and I think you're right in the fact that we're not really going to see the entire benefit of smart manufacturing until the entire ecosystem picks it up. But as we get into this, we should have probably started with this. But as we talk about small and medium manufacturers, what really is the definition of a small and medium manufacturer?
Yeah, I mean, that's very important that we clarify this. We conducted a survey of about 10 countries, both developed and emerging economies, and came up with some kind of categorization of small and medium manufacturers based on what each country gave us as input from their side. A typical small manufacturer is one who has an annual revenue between 5 million to 100 million US dollars, and number of employees between 25 to 100. I mean, I'm saying 25 to 100. I'm not including 0 to 25, and I'm not including 0 to 5 million, because they become micro small. I think that there has to be a minimum level of maturity for smart manufacturing. And I'm assuming that a $5 million revenue and a 25 employee company should be able to sort of embark on smart manufacturing. So $5 to $100 million in revenue, 25 to 100 people. And then a medium organization falls between 100 million to 500 million, give or take. I mean, I would say 100 to 350 to be very sort of strict in terms of small and medium, but we can extend it up to 500 million because some of the companies are still considered medium even if they have $500 million in revenue. And between 100 to 300 employees in terms of staff. So this is, again, a broad definition. I wouldn't, I mean, if you go to specific countries, the definitions would be different. But a broad definition is that a small company would be under 100 million and under 100 employees, and a medium company would be under 500 million and under 300 employees.
That's great. Thanks for helping define that a bit for our listeners. As we start getting into this, what are some of the main drivers for implementing smart manufacturing methods?
First and foremost, small and medium manufacturers do not have access to capital. Secondly, they have to contend with wafer-thin margin. Then there is volatility in the market, either in the customer demand on one side or in the supplier side, which greatly impacts their profitability. And fourthly, in the current business climate, there is a demand for flexibility from the end customers in terms of product variation. You know very well, every customer wants to customize the product to their requirement. That's happening as well. And added to that, the customers want the product development cycles to be much faster. So as a supplier, you are really startled with these problems. They impose a huge burden on the small and medium manufacturer, and smart manufacturing can provide some relief from most, if not all, of the above-mentioned problems. And I think that the ones that I mentioned, are probably that come to my mind as the main drivers for implementing smart manufacturing in a small and medium enterprise.
So one of the things you mentioned is that, small and medium manufacturers, or SMMs, have more difficult problems in accessing capital, at least at the sort of scale and size that large manufacturers have to access capital. I'm sure that's probably maybe one of them, maybe not. But can you go through any entry barriers that SMMs face on embarking on a digital transformation?
Yes, there are many barriers, Chris. But based on our research, the following are the most commonly, I would say, encountered ones. Firstly, because they don't have access to capital. Capital is a scarce commodity for them. There is a perception that digital transformation, smart manufacturing is costly and it is not suitable for them. That's the first sort of perception that they have. They also have a belief that, is related to the first one. They have a belief that they need a sophisticated network infrastructure or other resources and infrastructure to even embark on smart manufacturing. So that is their strong belief, because most of the demonstrations that are out there over the last 10 years, they all talk about very sophisticated robotic mechanisms and, very sophisticated infrastructure and networks. And the first impression for the small and medium manufacturers, oh, this is not for us. I mean, we don't have that kind of capital. We cannot afford it. Thirdly, they also believe that they need qualified IT staff within their organizations to do all this, right? Basically, they don't have it. They just have specific manufacturing expertise, which is related to what they produce. And they have manufacturing, they have operators, they have middle managers and the entrepreneurs. They don't have an IT department that a large company has. And so their belief is that one would need a qualified IT staff or in place, or a department in place, before one can implement smart manufacturing. So these are all beliefs. They're all barriers to entry. They're not really barriers. They're all, I would say, they can be broken. And finally, they do not think they can afford the time for implementation. Many implementations of software, again, this is a very common experience. They take 6 months, 3 to 6 months at least for implementation, and they don't have the time. So they are putting out fires every day. Small and medium enterprises, they live by the day. I mean, every day there is some challenge that they have to overcome. And they don't have the time to just look at an implementation for future, something that is going to give them some benefit in the future, and spend about 3 months on it. So these are the, I would say strong belief, which have to be broken, and they can be broken. These are not real barriers, but these are the barriers to entry. We interviewed many SMMs to understand these barriers. And what I'm telling you is basically their input. And when we interviewed them, one other thing that they came out as a common sort of belief was that, not belief, was a fact actually, that they did not understand very clearly what benefits they would get from such implementation. I mean, the ROI, the return on the investment. Okay, if we did this, okay, really, I mean, I first of all, I don't believe that this is for us. And secondly, and I don't really know, because of doing it, our business is different. Our business requires this. Our business needs this. It's very specific. I don't know whether smart manufacturing can help us. I don't understand this. So their awareness levels were very low, and they were not very clear, or they are not, I would say are not still clear of what benefits they would get from such implementation. And so most of them are not ready to take the leap because of all these beliefs and barriers that exist. Some of them are real barriers, like an access to capital. Some of them are beliefs, that they need sophisticated infrastructure or need IT staff or need a very long implementation time. These are all not true. In today's technology, in terms of what we have today, in terms of technology and tools, we will be able to break all those barriers and even start small.
That's great. And I know in my role, I get to talk to a lot of different manufacturers of varying sizes. And some of those exact beliefs that you've shared, I've heard from them. And, it's interesting when you sort of see the look on their face when they're like, oh, well, I can't get into it at all. This Industry 4.0 is not for me. For one, I can't afford it. And you're like, oh, well, for a few $100s, you can buy a sensor that will go onto your spindle and will tell you when your machine's running, and you can better measure your uptime. And they sort of look at you like, oh, I can do that for a few $100s. And so it's great to be able to talk to them. And And I know, another thing that you had mentioned earlier in our conversation was that a lot of these SMMs, they are suppliers to the large organizations. And I've talked with companies that have said, hey, I need to start getting into this because I supply to Boeing, and Boeing is starting to require that I have this information to go along with the parts I'm sending them that right now I just can't provide. So, I'm sure that's one benefit, but could you go through some of the other kinds of benefits that a small and medium-sized manufacturer gets from the digital transformation and smart manufacturing?
Absolutely, and you're right. And in terms of what in terms of the you mentioned about how easy it is to implement smart manufacturing. You can just buy a sensor, IoT sensor, connect it to a platform, and boom, you have got a dashboard telling you, giving you information and facts that you can start making decisions. So I would say, see, in terms of benefits, if you start looking at what benefits a small and medium enterprise who's just going to start small, like how we are discussing with just a few sensors, IoT sensors platform, what can they get? The first thing they get is, they will convert from making decisions under uncertainty, they can transform to making decisions based on facts. That's the first benefit, right? Basically because they will have data in their fingertips based on some very simple attachment of a sensor to a machine, which will collect data, very relevant data that is going to be helpful in determining or taking some decisions because it provides actionable intelligence. So we have to be very selective in what we choose, what sensor we choose, and what information is required for making decisions. But we do right, then a very simple sensor can make a small and medium manufacturer, create the capability in a small and medium manufacturer to make decisions based on fact, as opposed to making under uncertainty, which is the state of the art, which is what they are doing today. Second benefit will be to convert, paper records into digital processes. First of all, paper records, storing them is costly. Or taking notes, filling up paper records is erroneous. There are going to be errors and omissions by operators. It's a non-value-added activity for the operators to just note down how much is the downtime, how much is the uptime, or how many parts are being produced. All of those pieces of information which can be automatically acquired from the operation, from the machine, or from the process, is now recorded on paper manually. And that non-value added labor can be eliminated if it is sort of automatically acquired using digital processes. And not only does that remove non-value added activity, it also improves traceability. You can trace your operations, trace your material, trace the parts that you have produced. And, you can be more responsive to your customers, more responsive to your managers internally. So the traceability improves when you have a digital process. There is no need for storing those records, so you save on storage costs. There's no need to record them manually, so you eliminate errors, omissions, and non-value added time. So that's another second benefit, is converting paper records to digital processes. And a third benefit, which is sort of implicit in any smart manufacturing implementation, is that you break all of the silos within the organization. Today, you have islands within the organization, and if you walked across departments and asked them about the same sort of attribute, whether, what is the downtime, what is the productivity, what is the throughput, the answers will be different in different organizations because they have different data. The data would not have been updated in all of the departments. Each department would have its own version of the truth. There won't be one correct version of the truth across all the departments, and therefore there is no understanding of the status or performance of the operation for any, either a middle manager or a senior management, or even for the operators. And therefore, there is no predictability. So that leads me to the next sort of advantage. If one has the correct and clear understanding of manufacturing performance in real time. Assume that because we have broken silos, we have now got digital processes, and we have also are able to make decisions based on facts. We are now in a position to go one step further and be proactive in addressing a potential problem than being reactive after the problem has occurred and doing a post-mortem, if you will, right? So this capability would be the final, I would say, the matured sort of benefit after the first three benefits. You start getting to a stage where, I know this particular machine is going to have a problem in 3 hours. And therefore, I should call my maintenance guys to come and fix it now before it fails, because I need to deliver parts today before the end of the day to my customer. I don't want a downtime. So that decision can be made when you have the data at your fingertips. You have the information across the board, one version of the truth across the board, and everything is digitally connected, right? So this whole so all of these benefits together, okay, what will they do? This SMMs will gain the capability to achieve more from what limited resources they have at their disposal, because they'll be improving their productivity, they'll be improving their efficiency, they'll be improving their effectiveness, they will reduce their cost, and thereby improve their capacity as well. So when you improve capacity, which is exactly what you need for becoming more competitive, all of this will contribute to becoming more competitive, because you can do more with less. You don't have to invest more for doing more. You can do more without further investment by just optimizing your existing operation. And when you start improving your capacity, you are able to go to a customer and get more work, and therefore your market share improves. And so one side, the competitiveness improves because you're reducing costs and you're able to offer a better rate. Your capability to improve capacity improves your market share because you have more availability of resources to do more jobs than what you're able to do now. So all of these are benefits. And these can, as we started this discussion, this particular question, all of these benefits are possible even with very minimal investment, very minimal infrastructure. And which is what I want to drive home in our discussions today, that it is possible to get all of these benefits. It doesn't need a very, very sophisticated network infrastructure or upfront capital to do this.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've talked with another company a little while back that they specialize in overall equipment efficiency and measuring the uptime of equipment. And they were telling me about a manufacturer that they came in that was like, oh, I need to buy 2 more machines because I just don't have the capability and the capacity right now in my shop. And they asked them, they're like, well, what do you think your uptime is? Oh, we're probably 70+% uptime. And so they're like, well, you know what? Instead of spending millions of dollars on new machines, why don't you spend thousands of dollars with us instead and see if maybe there's something? And they implemented it and found out that they really only had about 20% uptime instead of the 70+% that the manufacturer thought. And with that capability and with that technology, they were able to improve their operations and not have to go spend millions of dollars on a couple of new CNC machines.
Absolutely. They're right there. I have come across many experiences of that sort where just, looking at their current operations and refining them and improving them with some digital attachment and providing real-time information and visibility, the companies have been able to improve both on capability and capacity and sort of avoided, as you rightly said, the need for new investment, especially when they are embarking on a sudden, new order that they have to implement, and they just have to find capital, which is very hard to find for them. This becomes a great boon, right? This is a great boon, to them to sort of save the investment or the cost of buying something by just uh, looking at their operations and optimizing them using certain best practices and smart manufacturing methods.
So, with all of these benefits that SMMs can see, where should they start their digital transformation journey? And are there maybe any government programs out there to help support them?
I think that my opinion has always been that small and medium manufacturers should start small. I mean, they don't have to look at solving everything at the start. They can start small, look at what is but then they have to have a holistic and strategic thinking on what type of game-changing transformations they wish to achieve in their organization before they start. This is very important. People focus on starting small, but they do not focus on having a goal, a dream for their organization, a game-changing dream. Smart manufacturing is not about an incremental change. It is a game changer. So that is how one has to approach it. If I want a game-changing transformation in my organization, what is that? I mean, the entrepreneurs will have to do some, or the owners, the senior executives, they'll have to do some brainstorming on that and come to some agreement on where they would like their organization to be in the next 5 years or 3 to 5 years. Not too far out in the future, just 3 to 5 years. And so my philosophy has always been think globally, but act locally. So you have to apply holistic and strategic thinking, but you focus on something that is small, that will be a quick hit, that will provide you immediate sort of return. And that's a very, very, it's something that one has to spend time on to choose the right project, right priority within the organization to start. So it is very important that a small and medium manufacturer does not treat a smart manufacturing initiative as an automation project, a one-off automation project. It's not that. It has to be considered as a journey, and they should be clear about their destination, which is what I wanted to mention first. It is important that all the stakeholders within the organization are involved. They deliberate on what changes they would like to see in the organization. It should not be just only the top managers or the executives. I've seen that whenever there is a representation from the plant operators as well, there is a very good understanding of the challenges and of the actual problems that can be overcome, and that really leads to a very set of well thought out, incremental, phased, and evolutionary plan to achieve their goals. So the plan can be, as I mentioned, that's a global sort of goal, but the plan should be incremental, phased, and evolutionary. And every phase in the plan can have its checks and balances and some gating factors. Every phase can have a justification plan to embark on the next stage and so on. So they know that this is where I want to go, and this is the first step. But this step is not going to be pointing in a different direction from my strategic goal. It has to be focused on the strategic goal, but then an incremental step towards the strategic goal, which will basically provide evidence and validate the benefits that we are talking about. We have to identify what benefits we are going to look for after implementing the first step. That will be the gating factor. And if those benefits have been achieved, if they're not achieved, why? It may not be because of smart manufacturing. It'll be because you may choose the wrong process, the wrong technology, or the wrong application. So it could be either one of these. So one has to be very careful in selecting the actual pilot application, has to be careful in selecting the solution for that pilot application, has to be careful in selecting the enabling technologies for that solution, and should be very, very last but not least, should be very clear about how that particular incremental step is going to empower the users, the humans who are going to be involved in that operation. If all of those four factors are satisfied in every incremental step, I'm sure we will not land up in this what is famously known as the pilot purgatory, right? You know that.
Yes.
So that can be avoided, and we can take incremental phased approach towards this. That's how I would start a digital transformation journey. And regarding a second part of the question regarding government programs, you must be probably aware that every country is now focused on Industry 4. Germany started Industry 4, and every other country in North America and US is called smart manufacturing. And if you go to any country, they would have some kind of a initiative to transform their manufacturing sector, and with the digital technology, which is either called Industry 4 or digital transformation, digital manufacturing, or smart manufacturing. There are different names for it. So there are programs in every country focusing on improving the status quo of their small and medium manufacturers. And so, and also some programs for subsidizing the cost of, digital transformation or providing grants for such transformation. In particular, the US, the Department of Energy has established a smart manufacturing institute called SESME. SESME stands for Clean Energy and Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute. You can go to the website www.sesme.org to know more about them. One of their mandates is to democratize smart manufacturing in the U.S. manufacturing industry. What they mean by democratize is they would like to proliferate smart manufacturing to small and medium enterprise, and that's the only way they can democratize. For instance, I'll give you an example here in the U.S. There are about 240,000 manufacturers in the U.S., out of which 235,000 are small and medium. Only 5,000 are large. Would be beyond what we call the small and medium. We defined it more than $500 million. So you're looking at a very huge a number of small and medium enterprises in manufacturers in the U.S. And this institute, the Department of Energy's Institute, Smart Manufacturing Institute, is focused on proliferating smart manufacturing methods to these small and medium manufacturers. Also, they are engaged in workforce development programs. Obviously, finally, as I mentioned previously, even if you implement the right process, the right solution, right technology, ultimately the human is a very important stakeholder in this entire initiative, and we need to sort of create the next generation workforce to be able to handle these changes. And there are government programs to sort of help in reskilling the existing workforce, especially in small and medium manufacturers. You will have employees who have got 8 to 10 years experience in the mid 40s or early 40s, who are seeing that the ground under them is sort of changing. Everything is changing, and they have to cope with this new wave of technology. So there are programs to help the staff who are already working in the manufacturing for 8 or 10 years to sort of reskill. And also there is a new curriculum that's being developed for the next generation graduates. In the engineering education is becoming multidisciplinary, and there are some initiatives going on for making the new students aware of the latest technologies that are going to be used in the manufacturing sector. Not only technologies, the business processes. The business process is also changing. It was previously mass production, right? That's what Ford started off with. Now it's mass customization. So the whole thing is now changing. The paradigms are changing. It's no longer mass production. We are going to do mass customization. So the manufacturers will have to be equipped for that. So all of the business models that are changing, the new technologies that are being employed, and all of and the new challenges that have to be faced by the next generation workers. There is a need for training on all of those, and I think that there are government programs in the U.S. and other countries to help both the industry as well as the people, the graduate students and the employees of companies to get benefited from them.
That's great to hear, and all the information you really have shared today has been certainly engaging and very enlightening, I think, in the capabilities and the opportunities that exist for small and medium-sized manufacturers. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. If listeners wanted to learn more about 5G technologies, where should they go?
Our website is www.fifthgentech.com. The website would have all of the information on our forays with small and medium manufacturers. There is enough details there for contacting us to get more information. We'll be very happy to sort of engage with anybody who's interested. So the website is fifthgentech.com, FIFTHGENTECH.com.
And to stay up to date about what's happening in manufacturing today and hear more podcasts, visit us at sme.org.